Awesome. Gallery. Hello, guys. Welcome to one of our new client interview series. And today I am so thrilled to be interviewing one of my just graduated clients, Jess, from our 2 weeks, 14 days messaging intensive. And I want to bring on Jess today because what we worked on in the 2 weeks and the results that she got, I think I kind of want to debunk the myth where, like, it takes time, a lot of time for you to get traction. It takes a lot of time for you to like book calls, book leads. I think Jess's story here shows that if you just do the right things, tweak the right message, and have the right strategies, it really doesn't have to take that long. All right. So, Jess, I would love for you to share just like some of the stats that we talked about right before we press record. Like, what were some of like the three coolest stats in terms of like your data results that you got in our 2 weeks working together?
Yeah, so I thought it was really awesome because like we had booked this after I did your Lurkers into Leads challenge. So like it worked out perfectly and it obviously really worked well for me. So I mean my page views went up by over 600%, which was amazing. And that's like my page, not my profile. And I think
Yeah.
like everyone knows that the Facebook page, like it's harder to get engagement on your page.
Especially nowadays, like in 2023,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So like to see that was really, really cool. And the engagement in my Facebook group too was up by well over 600%.
Wow.
And commenting went up by over 1,000%.
Wow.
So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. And how many leads did you end up booking through kind of the strategies that we'll be discussing, right, for the rest of the interview too? But I would just love to throw some numbers to like let our audience know.
Yeah. So I had 10 people say yes to my free call.
Mhm.
And I had 2 people go ahead and actually purchase a call with me as well.
Nice.
So
Wow, that's so good. So I would love to kind of, you know, ask the question like throughout, when you first reached out and to like say that you were interested in this offer, what were the main things you were looking for support in terms of like your marketing and your message and your content?
yeah, I needed support with clarity. That was the big one.
Mhm.
I just felt super scattered. I had way too many ideas. And I was really struggling to just actually consistently put content out there that was clear, and actually got like a good result from
Mhm.
my audience, like to let people know, hey, this is for you. Like what I have to offer is for you.
Mhm.
And I was also really nervous because like I knew I wanted to do an offer for my audience, but I hadn't been showing up consistently. So I was like, I think my audience is pretty cold at this point. So yeah, like I needed that clarity piece. I needed that re-engagement piece. And that was very helpful working with you.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that, when we like right before we started, you were so clear on what it is that you want to support in. And I think that's something that both on a coach perspective and also on a client perspective, when you are clear on, okay, this is what I want, you also are more clear on the results that, you want to achieve in the container. So I think you did such a good job too, like as a client, like, okay, this is what I want, this is what I want for my business and like my marketing. And like, these are all the things that is important to me. So that also gave me a lot of
Yeah.
clarity to know, okay, this is what I want to help Jess with. Because even no matter what kind of container, like 2 weeks or 3 months or 6 months, it really comes down to like your objective of like what you want support in. So that was just like an immediate, like you hit the nail on the head for that. And I think second part, when it came to like the clarity of your content and the message of what you wanted to kind of convey for your audience, what did you learn like that stood out to you in the most throughout the times that we were coaching together?
Keep it simple. Keep it simple is like the big theme that like you really helped me with, because like I have a tendency to kind of go down rabbit holes and be like, oh, we could talk about this, and oh, that makes me think of that. And you're like, well, that's great, but like, what is the one thing your audience really needs to hear right now? And like we had even, I wanted to go down the rabbit hole of selling my the one call, but then I was like, but I have this 3-month program that I also want to like, I want the call to lead into that. And you're like,
Yes.
okay, great, but focus on the call first. Like
Yeah.
that's the first step. Like
Mhm.
just start there. And that was so helpful.
Yeah, I think it's also like not just you, but I've seen through other clients when we're selling something, especially through like our content or like any launches. I think what's really powerful from like a conversion perspective, which you know now, now that we work together, is when we keep it simple and focus on the one thing, it then leads to the next thing that you want to sell anyways. But it's
Mhm.
just more like easier if you just sell the one thing. So your audience isn't like, oh, but Jess sells this offer in this 3 months and this call. So I think throughout our time together, just so our audience knows, we just really kept it simple on what is the thing you're selling. Let's say for this launch period, we're selling a call or we're selling a workshop or we're selling a masterclass. We're going to focus all the content on the problems or the objective of like this thing that we're selling. So for the call that you had initially, I think we like reframed it a little bit where we got more clear on the energy ignition, the energy activation, right? Energy
Yeah.
ignition for 2024. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all we did, or for your content, was just focused on that, right?
Mhm.
You could have talked about like so many other topics because your area of coaching is can be a little bit broad. But I think what we did a really good job on, like working together, is helping you trim down. Okay, this is just focused on energy
Mhm.
activation, ignition. What do they need to like reclaim their energy to prepare for 2024?
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, it really helps me hone into just for helping my clients too.
Mhm.
Just like, hey, we need to get your energy where it needs to be. Like, let's cut out the energy drains. Let's
Mhm.
hone in on the one thing you need to do. And it's like, it's so helpful.
Yeah. And I would also like to talk about or just ask you when it came down to like after that was cleared up, how much easier was it for you to start marketing or let's say just like writing content and putting stuff out there?
So much easier.
Uh,
um, I'm actually not one of those people that struggles with like having content ideas. It's more
mhm,
like I have so many, like, how do I pick which one to work on next?
mhm,
So it's like now I'm like, oh, okay, what is it I'm selling? Or what does my audience need to hear right now? It's the one thing that they need support on. And it just like suddenly I can just, pump out 2 weeks worth of content.
yeah.
Just they can focus now.
Yeah, because what I remember when we were coaching, like the one thing you didn't have a problem with is like thinking of ideas because you had a lot of ideas, right, for your coaching with, energy, whether it was like even the lunar cycle or
Mhm.
stress, burn. There was just like a lot of ideas you could have talked about. But
Mhm.
the problem was then how do we make it make sense for like the thing that you were selling? Kind of
Yeah.
like a brand cohesiveness of this
Yeah.
is what you want to present yourself as. This was like your positioning.
Mhm.
So that just felt like so much easier when you're like, okay, this is what I need to focus on for this
Yeah.
thing that I'm selling.
Yeah. Well, and even like moving forward, I now have that focus of like, hey, the first step is getting control of your energy, being able to harness that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I have all these ways of doing that. That's maybe unique to each individual person, but it's like it all comes back to harnessing your energy so it actually works for you.
Yeah. And it's almost like when we try to make it simple for our audience, they also say yes, like way faster. Because if you were to sell to your audience like energy and then let's say something else about like time management or like just many other side things that still, right, like still aligns with your brand, but it's just easier if they just say yes to the one thing. And maybe when, the next few months you get to change things around. But it's like for now, when you focus on the one thing, you just get faster traction in like a way simpler approach.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And was there any other insights or lessons that stood out to you in just the time we worked together, you working on your marketing? What was something that you felt like clicked for you that you didn't quite get while you were trying to do this alone?
Mhm. So there were a couple things. So one, like coming back to what you talked about with like I was very clear coming in. Like the biggest thing I knew I needed was like a swift kick in the butt to actually get it done
Yeah.
in a timely fashion.
Mhm.
And so like having worked with you, I now know that that's a possibility for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, okay, I can actually set my sights on getting something launched in 2 weeks
Mhm.
and I can do that. Um, So that was a big one, to be able to prove that to myself. And I think another big one really comes back to that clarity of when you know who you're talking to and you know the one specific thing that you're offering them, it makes it so much easier to give that very clear message to them so that they can say yes. And it's like, what I really appreciate, I think about working with you and being able to talk with you and bounce these things off of you is like, you validated that like all the other stuff that I want to talk about is still relevant.
Yeah.
But you were able to help me redirect it. So instead of it being like, oh, I talk about the moon and I talk about time management and I talk about all these different things, it's like, no, we talk about it, but through that lens
Yeah.
of the energy.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, it makes it so much more clear. And that way, anyone coming into my space can now be like, oh, she helps me harness my energy.
Mhm.
And these are all the options available to me to do that. But
Yeah.
I don't, and what's nice too is like, I think before people would have come in and looked at all this stuff and been like, oh gosh, like, how do I choose which one I need to do? And now it's like, no, we focus on your energy and I help you decide which one is
Yeah.
correct for you,
Yeah.
which
That
is a
is
lot less overwhelming.
that is so powerful too, because I know with your type of coaching, and I've seen this a lot with, let's say, more on the like non money or non business related coaching, where if you're selling something that's more intangible, like on
Mhm.
energy or relationship or with love, like sometimes these things, it's so much easier to focus on like that one core problem. And let's say for you it's harness your energy, you still have a lot of ways you help your clients through that, right? And
Mhm.
it's about connecting the dots to, yes, it's that problem, but once they come into your container, it could be like different ways of solving that problem that you might not need to share it all on your page like at once. Right, I think that was
So
the main thing.
overwhelming.
Yeah, it's kind of like marketing too. If I, with the messaging free call that I've like launched a few, like when I had the lurkers into leads, and then like a brief period before that, I knew that messaging was something that people could immediately get, but
Mhm.
it wasn't like we didn't talk about everything else in the messaging call too. Like we talked about pricing, we talked about your offer, we talked about even some sales process. But if
Mhm.
I talked about everything that, oh, you're going to get all this in a messaging call, I think people would have been so confused that they would say no, because our brain likes to look for problems, or our brain likes to look for reasons to say no, especially in any sales process. So when
Yeah.
we can just make it simple, make it like a no-brainer yes, then it's also easier for your clients to say yes. So
Mhm.
everything just worked out for you. And I'm glad that you also took in the coaching and like implemented it, because it's one thing for you to get the results that you did, you actually listened and also took in suggestions like on your own. So I think
Mhm.
that's really powerful, where when a client listens and implements, it's just magical, like from there, because it takes two to get to where you want to be.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's where it like, because I came in with that clarity of like, this is exactly what I need. So
Mhm.
there was no like, I wasn't coming in being like, oh, I need you to help me fix everything. Just tell me what to do. It was like, no, like these are my sticking points. And
Yeah.
like, if we can get past those, I think we'll be good.
Yeah. And you did amazing too, like throughout, the time that we were coaching together. I think every call, like there was just like new insights and new discovery. And it just gives you it to show that it's just all the beginning for your
Mhm.
coaching and your business. There's just so much ahead of you, which
Mhm.
I'm so excited for.
Me too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Um, you're so welcome. I would say a final question. I'm trying to think of something like a random on the top of my head. What would you say is something that, you appreciated about the way I coach, or just the overall process that you enjoyed? I
Mhm.
guess I'm selfish. I just want to hear that answer by
Oh,
myself.
totally. Actually, because that was like one of the big things that stood out on our very first call together was like, you would ask me more questions to kind of get to the bottom of like my mindset or my reasoning. And then you called me on them, like in this very loving way. But like, I can't remember what it was that there was something that I wanted to do or that I didn't want to do. And you were like, I'm just going to call you on that for a sec because like, there's no reason that we can't do this. And I was like, Oh, yeah, you're totally right.
Oh, it's probably something about selling, if I remember correctly. Maybe
Yeah,
not, but it was probably something about selling because I think that was one of the things about um not afraid to be pushy or afraid to like, sell a lot.
mhm.
There was something there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember. Yeah.
It'll come to me. It'll come to me like in half an hour.
Yeah. Oh, but I'm glad that like that, when I'm sure as well as a coach, like we want to be mindful of how we call our clients out. And I think I try to do it from a place of I'm noticing like this is what's happening, but this is where you want to be. So I think I try to do it from a place of like, just redirecting, not so like you're doing it completely wrong. So I'm glad that it came through the right way or
Yeah,
received the
yeah,
right way.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that so much. That makes me very happy and also just excited to, continue to serve my people and also, maybe we would work together again. Who knows?
Yeah.
So I'd be so excited for all of that. Okay, cool. I think that wraps up today's interview. Was there anything else, like last comments from you that you wanted to share, or I think we covered most of it?
Yeah, no, just like, I mean, like I said, you were really great at giving me exactly what I needed and challenging me where I needed to be challenged and encouraging me exactly how
Oh,
I needed to be encouraged. So
yeah.
thank you.
You're so welcome. And maybe you could let my audience know like where is the best place to find you and like yeah, just like love to kind of let my audience know like about everything else that's going on too.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I'm at Jess Roe Life on Instagram and Facebook. That's kind of primarily where I hang out, and I
Mhm.
have a sustainable success community on Facebook.
Yes.
So aligned well-being for high achievers.
Amazing.
But yeah, it's the whole goal is to make sure that you don't have to burn yourself out to actually achieve success. So yeah, so that's where you can find me, and I'd love to connect if you do need any support with
Absolutely.
that.
I'll tag you in the video and I want to make sure your link is added on the comments so people can find you and, maybe like get to know more about your offer too.
Mhm. Yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jess. This was such a fun interview, and I hope that your audience, my audience, we all learned something from it, from a content side, messaging and clarity. I think there was so much here that sometimes, when we look at things on the internet, it doesn't hit the same when you watch someone who actually been through it and like share about the lesson. So that was my intention for
Mhm.
today's interview. And yeah, thank you for sharing all your wisdom with the group too.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. I'll see you guys next time.